Welcome to the High Rise Podcast, presented by Headset, the leading data and analytics company for the cannabis industry.
So, Emily, today I want to talk about the home of the high rise. What do you think?
I don't know where that is.
I know you're in California. I'm up in Washington State here in Seattle, but I'm talking about literal high rises. I want to talk a bit about Illinois. So it's a fun fact about Illinois. Turns out that Chicago is known as the home of the high rise or skyscrapers because the first skyscraper was built there. It was 10 stories tall, built out of steel. So I thought it was relevant. You know, we're called the high rise, home of the high rise. Some stuff's happening in Illinois, and I thought it'd be good to talk about it today.
I think that's great. I was just in Chicago last week and in fact was staying right on the magnificent mile is what they call it there. So I was surrounded by high rises. It was fun.
Yeah. How was the weather for you? Pretty warm?
Yeah, it was great. It was summer. It was perfect. I love summer. And I love Chicago in the summer. It's a great town. And as it were, it's like kind of an HQ for many companies in cannabis. So it's one of our tent poles. Great town.
Yeah, it really is. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I mean, given that it is HQ for so many organizations, the state of Illinois, I do want to talk about kind of the licensing situation there and some news that happened related to 55 new adult use licenses getting issued. And this happened, I think, just 10 days ago or so. So I thought we could talk a bit about, the background on that, what those license holders look like, the structure of Illinois, and then maybe get into some data on Illinois and kind of what's going on out there.
Let's do it. I love some data.
Yeah, me too. So I guess some background, right? So there were some changes that happened to the licensing structure here for these 55 new adult use licenses. I think it's related to social equity applicants, and basically what it looks like is that they changed the application fee, reduced them from $2,500 to $250, right? That's 10x. That's a significant amount. That barrier is so crazy, how they had, and then that's like nothing compared to some markets. $2,500 is like on the cheap, right? But $250 seems more realistic and rational, so that's good. They also did, winners for the new licenses will be selected via a lottery system, right? Because you're obviously going to get more than 55 applicants, especially given the low barrier on dollar amount. They were accepting applicants from January 30th. This was earlier in the year when they announced these changes, right? And so they had been accepting for the duration of the year so far. There was residency requirement and bonus points for military veterans that has been removed from the requirements. And it says the allowance for applicants to gain social equity status by employing at least 10 people from areas with high marijuana arrest rates or who are arrested or convicted of low-level marijuana offenses has been removed, which is interesting because I did look at, the new or the social equity criteria that they have published on the website. It does say has more than 10 full-time employees or more than half of those employees reside in disproportionately impacted areas. So I'm not really sure how to read that. And I'm certainly no expert on this license process, but it looks like they're just trying to make some changes to, I think, make it a bit easier to apply for a license. And then finally, they can only apply for licenses in one region and can only file one application. And there's 17 dedicated regions in Illinois. So all these changes were put into place at the beginning of the year, and this was after the state opened up about 3 years ago, and it's only issued 2 social equity licenses since then, due to like all sorts of lawsuits and stuff that's happened over the years. So a nice bit of change there. So fast forward to July, and the licenses are issued. So they awarded the 55 licenses. There were more than 2,700 applicants that came in. So I wonder if I don't know the math on it, right? $250, they get 2,700 licenses, $2,500. Maybe they would have gotten 270 licenses. Maybe it like nets out the same. And the criteria did include, being from a community that was disproportionately impacted by cannabis prohibition, or having someone having a record of low-level related charges. And then, yeah, so now I think there's 192 in my notes. Let me see here of total stores open. Oh, no, that was like granted. I think about 113 stores open. So this will add another 55 when they get there. Now, yeah, it made me think like, well, what's the social equity like structure, to even be eligible for this? And that's where it did say that you need to have the 10 employees, more than 10 employees, more than half those employees, are in disproportionately impacted areas or have been arrested, convicted, and so on. Although, in the new applicant said that requirement was waived, but you do have to have at least 51% ownership and control by one or more individuals who have lived in a disproportionately impacted area in the past 5 or 10 years, have been arrested or convicted for cannabis-related offenses, or you have a parent, child, or spouse that has been arrested, convicted, right? So that's kind of the criteria. Mm-hmm. And then, kind of we talk about social equity a lot on the show, and every state seems to do it a little bit differently on like what these licenses look like. And none have done it like super great, right? I mean, it's really hard to point to any that are like, yeah, this is awesome. I know like New York State, and we talk a lot about New York State, there are social equity license holders that it's great, but that market is so challenged, right? Because of all the illicit, right, that surrounds these guys. But I know groups like, Smacked out there have really leaned into it, kind of coming from the illicit market originally and moving into the legal market. Although, I think a state as a whole hasn't made it easy for these guys, given kind of the illicit. So, Illinois, well, what's the deal? Like, how does it look? From like a social equity? Is it, given these licenses, are they really going to be on their back foot, right? And this kind of, goes back to things like SAFE, right? Which is the perpetual, never going to happen feeling. And, you and I have talked about these organizations, these social equity license holders that need it the most, right? And need banking support. Right. It's just unreal, right? So then, it's like, well, sure, they've got the licenses, and then the age-old problem of like, can they be in a position where they can get, the financing, the banking, the support they need to be ultimately successful. And some literature on the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, which is the DCEO under the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act, which is Illinois' program, says that it's designed to level the playing field and provide significant support to these applicants. That's technical assistance. So through a network of providers, the DCEO helps social equity applicants navigate the complex process of obtaining and retaining a cannabis business license. So I guess just to get the licenses they're around to help you do that. And then the financial assistance, the introduction of the Social Equity Cannabis Loan Program and the Direct Forgivable Loan Program aims to address the financial barriers that often hinder social equity applicants, which is great. And that's kind of like the thing that was supposed to happen in New York with the card licenses, right? That I don't know where that is these days. I know we're talking to Jeff Schultz about it, but I don't think it's still there yet. But it looks like they're trying to do that, which is good. And then the scoring benefits and reduced fees. So it sounds like they're trying to do something for these guys, because 55 new stores, I mean, it's almost a 50% increase in the stores that are open in Illinois, right? And so it's an untapped market, and I want to talk about the data and what it's pointing to. But just historically, these social equity programs have been a bit challenged because of the licenses that go out, and the people that get these licenses don't necessarily have the support that other organizations might have, and in an already challenging space right now, right? Like for so many reasons. So that's kind of the background. Did I hit on everything in Illinois? I mean, that's for the 55 new licenses, but I guess prior to that, there was a lot of challenges with licensing in general, right? With licenses coming out, lawsuits happening. I don't know, vaguely remember these things, but is all that settled now?
I think it's settling, and I think that's why now we have these 55 new licenses. I mean, it really is interesting how when Illinois first announced the structure of their program, A lot of us were really excited because of the commitment around the idea of the social equity doors. And unfortunately, now we're several years into this market and it just really hasn't come to fruition. History doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And here we are again rhyming. And this is a disappointing one, right? I was excited about the lending piece to this because I did remember that was something that had been contemplated. And I think it will be structured a little bit differently from New York, which still remains to be seen, the fine print on that one, as they're kind of redoing. They had a second comment period on the regs for going into the fall, so things are still in motion there. But what I would say about this is that, 55 new doors, bringing it to 168 total doors in the state. Um, Several years into an open legal market, the doors in Illinois are doing well. It's a thriving market, but again, a theme on this in the high rise is always about access. So I think actually, one of the things they see on social media quite a bit is, kind of us versus them, or like the MSOs versus small business. But one thing I do know, if you listen to the quarterly earnings calls, is actually the MSOs would like to see these doors get open because they'd like to be able to work with the operators to get product on the shelves. So there is, yes, there's big business, quote unquote, in our industry. I would still say it's not big. I would say it's bigger business, but the thing that I like to think about is the totality of our business ecosystem in cannabis, and Illinois is a good example of how we need to get more independent operators open so we can create a more thriving and diversified business ecosystem, and that's how we'll thrive as an industry. So I think I'm looking forward to seeing this happening. I'm hopeful that these groups can get the funding that they need to get it open, and the structure, does kind of have some potential challenges around that. But depending on how this lending program works, I think that could be incredibly useful with the loan forgiveness, et cetera. And the idea of getting these doors open is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, 113, that is crazy low for the population of Illinois.
Tiny.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, to your point, like we always talk about this, it seems so intuitive. I think on a per door basis, I mean, depending on who you're talking to, right? If you're talking to a retailer in Illinois, they may be happy with their store and the performance of the store, right? But to the detriment of like the industry's success overall in a market like Illinois with such opportunity. So I do want to talk a bit about data. As we recently launched our Illinois Insights with brand and product information. Yeah, it's good. A long time coming, but I think now is the right time because I do think that the market is getting invested in, and I think it'll be interesting to see the changes coming up, especially with a 50% increase in doors, coming online soon. So that should shake up the market quite a bit, from something that's been kind of stagnant over the last number of years. So a few call outs, and we'll have an industry report published that has a lot of this. So, that's always available at no cost on our website. But I pulled some stats from there. So during the first half of 2023, Illinois achieved over 950 million in total cannabis sales. So hasn't hit a billion yet, but on track, certainly to do that since we're only in the first half of the year. So maybe a couple $1 billion market, depending on how the back half of the year looks and depending on when these stores can open up. It is the third largest cannabis market in the U.S. right now, behind California and Michigan. Despite looking minimal, the state's 2.1% growth in the last year shows that there is some progress, especially when you compare that to other markets that are static or have decreasing sales. And I think this story will be even bigger when we look at the back half of the year. Should these stores get open, I think you'll see a sizable increase and people will start talking about Illinois again. Like, look at the growth rate on a year-over-year basis. But all that said, it has been slowing up until now, with sales increasing 101% in the first year of legalization, dropping to 13% in the following year, and 2% most recently, right? So it's just stagnating. Like it's all there is, right? And I think that the access that's there and the people that are shopping are shopping, and maybe some more people are coming in, but I'm sure there's price pressure, that's balancing that out. But going from 1 year it doubled after the first year, then it dropped to 13% growth, and then now 2% growth. So suffice it to say, like 2% growth is not terrible when you compare to some markets, some of these mature legacy markets like Colorado, which have had negative growth. And again, COVID and all that, caveats and stuff, but still, right, there's a good opportunity to see some real growth coming out of Illinois, and it is so untapped. I mean, when you think about the population, and I want to kind of compare it to its neighbor Michigan, and since Michigan is also like number 2 and Illinois is number 3 on the sales, so yeah, it is. Sales are flattening for sure. There has to be some impact with like Missouri coming online, right, from the border 100%. Towns, right? So I'm sure they're getting some people that maybe have been shopping in the Illinois market going to Missouri. I'm not sure. I don't have pricing in front of me. How it compares to Missouri. Missouri is a newer market. Generally, newer markets a bit more expensive, but maybe selection, access, all sorts of things. Maybe pricing is just as good. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that must have some impact, right, on a market like Illinois. The other states just doing better and kind of excelling. And the Missouri story, the Missouri narrative, I mean, they're like number 6 in June sales, and they've only been around for in June like 4 months, right? Which is crazy to go from 0 to number 6 in adult use for a population that's somewhat sizable, but it's Missouri, it's not Illinois, it's not Michigan. And then finally, we have some data on category performance. So the fastest growing category in Illinois is pre-rolls. They're notably underrepresented in Illinois, deviating from the national average by over 4 percentage points, which is, I don't know why that's the case. I don't know if it's the operators there and the license holders. They just haven't invested. But a lot of these operators have a footprint in a lot of other states, right, and have pre-roll lines. So it is interesting that it's just a bit below, and that's something that we see at Headset all the time. Like different states will have different trends, and it doesn't really have to do with the consumer preference. Like someone in Illinois probably not that different than a person in Michigan, but it has to do with like what products are available for them and what they can get, right? So it was underrepresented, compared to other markets, and so now it seems to be catching up a little bit. It's like the sales increased 5.6% in just the last year for pre-roll. Let's see what these new stores, what that looks like. And then finally, flower is overrepresented compared to the national average, but it is losing market share to categories such as beverage, edible, pre-roll, and vapor pen. Concentrates experienced the most significant loss. Sales declined 15% in the last year. And I wonder where that's coming from. I mean, just this year, maybe it's people going to other markets. I don't know. But the flower market share kind of losing popularity of beverages, edibles. I mean, the market share, the pie is the pie, 100% of sales. So it's got to go from somewhere. And that's pretty common to see flower get kind of taken over. It's still the largest category, obviously. But, when you see beverages and edibles kind of gaining market share, generally that's at the detriment of flower. So that's kind of some of the highlights from the report. Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of thoughts on that. In Illinois, there is a kind of a tax differential on concentrates versus other products because it's a higher potency. So I do think that there could be something with that. And especially if you're kind of hanging around the Missouri-Illinois border, that may be a driving factor if you're thinking about it. I don't remember what the tax situation is in Missouri, but that does strike me. Similarly, just as a consumer, having shopped in Illinois and having shopped in California, our pre-roll market in California is pretty competitive and pretty enticing in terms of all of the different types of pre-rolls and opportunities. And so when you're sharing pre-roll data on that, are you also talking about the connoisseur products or like the ones that are infused? Is that all rolled up?
That's right. All rolled into the pre-rolls. That's right. Yeah. The connoisseur pre-rolls. So those are the premium, where they're wax coated and concentrate, keef, the whole thing.
Coated, Those, and so I feel like those are just starting to really come to market in Illinois, and that we know, I think, was a big impetus to driving the California market, because that was when I know oh, what was this? The fuzzies.
Oh yeah.
Fuzzies hit the market and really went, explosively. And then Jeter followed, and a bunch of groups followed from there. But, for example, I know Dog Walkers just came out with the infused product for the
Interesting.
dog walkers, which is like yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's one of my favorites out there. But so it's that maybe just some anecdotal perspective on what I think is actually now starting to hit the market more. And I think that could be some low hanging fruit to hit on the growth of the pre roll
Yeah,
category.
it's so funny. We're always telling our clients, just look at what's going on in other states. Like as simple as that, right? Like
Hmm.
you're shopping in California and you see this, right? And you see the explosion of products that are available. You obviously see the data too, but just it's so intuitive, right? Like, oh, this trend is happening in California. Let's bring it here. And dog walkers, that's a perfect
Hmm.
example of. I'm surprised that it's taken them this long to kind of get there.
It's actually not the easiest. Yeah,
It's a
but it
production
is. There
problem.
are some nuances to
Yeah.
it. Yeah, because it's sticky, baby.
Yeah. And like what we were talking about last week with THC inflation, right? People are buying higher potency. And for pre-rolls, I mean, that's where we've seen a lot of growth in pre-rolls in the data as well. And I
Mhm.
don't know about Illinois. I don't have that in front of me, but in all the markets that we track, right? The pre-rolls have increased because of products like fuzzies coming to the market. And so people are probably looking at the
Mhm.
potency there, right? Because it's, you know, dipped in wax and rolled in keef. I mean, yeah, I don't know that a dog walk for me, I wouldn't be coming back after one of those probably.
See, it's funny because I feel like the pre-roll category used to. I don't know about you, but I remember back shopping in stores, it was kind of like a
Right.
giveaway because that was like kind of what they used up the kind of older
Sure.
flower, drier flower, and it was at
Whatever
the
fell on the
register.
floor.
And then
Sweep it up, put it in a pre-roll.
put it in there. But I feel like now, I mean, the category has evolved to become an actual consumer product category in our industry, with a real perspective on what it's offering. And I actually, even as a lower potency consumer of cannabis, I do like the infused products because I feel like it kind of burns nicely. And if it's high quality, then it makes for a really nice experience especially on the minis, on the dog walkers. But yeah, it does hit a little different.
Yeah, too rich for my blood. But the people love them and they're selling like crazy. So yeah, that could very well be it. And really good call out on the tax rates. That's so interesting with potency concentrates. That could very well be it. I wonder. Be interesting. We'll dig into the data maybe internally here and see if that's kind of what's happening. But yeah, that's kind of Illinois from a sales category mix, sales trends. But just to kind of close out, I wanted to just talk about it in general. Like, how do we feel about this market, right? And there's some things that kind of stand out to me, right? There's now 168 stores, 55 new ones opening. To give some context, right? I was just looking at Michigan. Michigan is almost 700 active retail licenses, and that's per their cannabis regulatory agency, the Michigan CRA reports. 700 stores in Michigan. Michigan's population is 10 million. Illinois is 13 million, right? So we're looking at 700 stores in Michigan. You're looking at 170 in Illinois, right? So just on a per capita basis, it's obviously underserved compared to what's available in Michigan. Michigan sales for June were 255 million, and they were ranked number 2. And Illinois was 163.5 million at number 3, right? So I don't know, 50% increase in doors roughly would add 80 million to that number, which gets it closer to Michigan, which would be really good, for the amount of stores, dollars per store compared to Michigan. I think those are good numbers. But it just feels to me like when you look at Missouri and you look at what Michigan's doing, you look at this kind of slow rollout at Illinois, that there's still like, this is good, but like there's still a lot of opportunity yet, right? And I think that I don't know, how do we get these markets to kind of figure that out, like, and maybe it is like a region to region, like the California problem is like the state's all in, right? But the problem are the local municipalities, right? The local cities, the local counties that
Mhm.
just have these blanket bans that just make it hard, right? Or even when the city approves it,
Mhm.
they approve it in the industrial district where you have to really go out of your way to find it, right? It's the age-old problem, but certainly it starts with like just license, create these licenses, let people open these stores, and this is a good start. But like, I don't know, I feel like, I don't know, it's a headline, the 55, and it's for the right thing, for social equity, and it sounds like they're gonna have the support that they need and all of that. But I just feel like Illinois still has like a long way to go, which is good when you think about long-term growth and opportunity. We're not like capped out, but it's 3 years now, and it's like it's something. But I guess I just expect a little more when they finally can make forward progress here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like, yeah, I think that's the eternal optimist in me is, well, there's still growth to be seen in this market. And so hopefully this step will show the state and the regulators at local levels that it's worth it to allow more stores to open and more access for consumers, and it'll drive value into the state. So that's my hope, even though I'd like to see more. I just want to see these open after 3 years, to your point. I really want to see it. It's the right thing to do, and I think it'll be a net positive for all.
Yeah, absolutely. And like compared to Michigan, it's the population, 30% more people live in Illinois. If you take the Michigan numbers, where they're at, and you could, you add 30% on top of that 255, it gets Illinois to a $330 million monthly market on the June data, which is, 2x kind of where they're at today. And that's just like the immediate opportunity right in front of them. And if they're only increasing it by 50%, they're leaving a lot of money on the table, a lot of tax revenue on the table. So I'm with you. It's like we got to celebrate the small wins, as we've learned in this. Any win is a win, right? But it's my perpetual impatience. And I think it's okay to push a little bit and call these things out. And hopefully someone in Illinois is listening and can push forward, because I mean, this is the state where they invented high rises, right? So just take that to heart. And I mean, a state of innovation and scale and big things, and the Illinois cannabis market just isn't on the level what they've done in the past there.
Thanks for listening to the High Rise Podcast, presented by Headset. For more information on Headset, visit headset.io.